I'd like to call to order the Bucksport Town Council meeting for Thursday, September 6th. Is it 6th, 9th, isn't it? Is it the 6th?
Yep.
Yes.
Until midnight.
2018. Roll call, please, Kathy.
Mark Eastman.
Here.
David Key.
Here.
David King.
Here.
Peter Stewart's absent. Paul Goddard.
Here.
Robert Carmichael.
Here.
Okay, item 3 is presentation of any town council recognitions. I don't believe we have any tonight. Item 4 is consider minutes of previous meetings. We have August, we don't have any of those.
No, none
Okay.
of these. These will be on
Okay.
the next agenda on
Okay.
the 13th.
We'll go on to item 5 then. Item 5, receive and review correspondence and documents. First one being Maine Municipal Risk Management dividends. For Susan, you want to talk about this?
Yes, our Maine Municipal Association's Risk Management Services is the town's insurer for property and casualty and workers' compensation. And based on positive claims experience, they award dividends back to their members who perform under a certain or above a certain point for keeping their loss ratios down. And this year's dividend check for that combined program is $7,327 that will be refunded to the town from premiums paid. And last year our cost for property and casualty insurance was approximately $59,000. Of this $7,300, about $4,300 of that was associated with property and casualty, and the remaining is for our workers' compensation. So it's a real positive that we keep our we have the safer, if you remember, designation for all of our departments. All of those things help contribute to keep our insurance rates down. So
Does this go into undesignated surplus?
this goes into an insurance revenue. It ends up in fund balance. We
Okay.
appropriated the total amount to pay the bill, so this is unanticipated revenue.
Okay. Any questions? Any questions from the public on this? Okay, we'll go on to item B, Down East Transportation Ridership for July 2018.
Yes, this is your monthly report from Down East Transportation that talks about how many riders use the shuttle in July and year to date, and how many people have taken advantage of the taxi service, which is the Outback portion, which again continues to be dramatically higher than it was a couple of years ago, thanks to the efforts of the Senior Resource Group, who have been doing a lot of work to put this information in local businesses.
Okay. Any questions from the public? No, we'll go on to item 6, ordinances to be considered or introduced. First item being enact Chapter 12, Traffic and Safety.
You need to move down to hold public hearing on Chapter 12 down on 12B before we do enactment. They
Okay.
end up upside down on the agenda every time.
Okay.
But
Okay. Declare the public hearing open to discuss Chapter 12, Traffic and Safety. Jeff, you will present on this?
Sure, this is a relatively minor change to Chapter 12 that allows overnight parking in designated areas in the town office parking lot. Currently, the ordinance prohibits overnight parking across the board. That change was made to accommodate the new owner of the old chamber building. As part of the conveyance, they were offered or assured that they'd have 2 parking spaces in this parking lot for tenant use or their own personal use for overnight parking. And the other change that was made at the same time was to clarify that scooters are prohibited on the waterfront walkway. It is on the signs, but it's not in the ordinance, so this will clarify that omission, and at the same time also clarify that motorized vehicles for mobility assistance are clearly allowed anywhere where pedestrians can walk in the town of Bucksport. Those vehicles are also allowed, including the waterfront walkway. And that's it.
Okay. Again, this is a public hearing. Any comments on those issues? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing. Declare the public hearing closed. How would the council like to proceed? We have motion and a second to approve the changes to Chapter 12, Traffic and Safety. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, item B, first reading of council rules, political activity section.
It's me. The Regulatory Review Committee tonight recommended what we've called option 2, which was in the regulatory review packet, which adds to make the council rules consistent with the town charter in terms of who can run for political office for town council, adds the full-time employee and spouse to as the only exclusion from who can run for town council. And that language will be, if you agree to it, that was the committee's recommendation, would be on your next agenda for adoption.
We have to wait.
Can't see.
Does that have to go to the next meeting?
You made a relatively minor change to it in committee by adding the words "and spouse." Those were omitted inadvertently. So as it was presented, it just reads "full-time employees may not serve."
Okay, if I
The
make
change
it-
you made to that was full-time employees and their spouses may not serve. So it's a
Okay.
relatively minor change. I'm not sure you need to hold up the first reading for that minor change. But it's up to you.
He's asking if they can adopt it.
Oh, no. It's got to go through 2 readings. And if you want to hold a public hearing, that's also,
Can we do a first reading tonight then?
that's how it's
That's what
presented
we
on the
just did.
agenda.
Okay.
Okay. Can we do a second reading?
The second reading's at the same time of the public hearing.
No, unfortunately, the second reading, the ordinance, charter says second reading has to take place 2 weeks. No, it's 2 weeks after
I was
first.
joking, I'm sorry.
Okay, any comments from the public on this? Okay, and the next, second reading will be at the next council meeting?
There's a
One
hand.
after.
No,
There's
it'll
a
be on
hand
the
down- There's a hand down there, David.
Hey, I got a question. Why do you put spouse in there? Why do you say a spouse can't run for office?
Is it charter?
It's a free world.
The town charter says town
Okay, but-
full-time employee and spouse. And
Okay.
the
It
The
seems to be
purpose
very
was-
limiting in this free world that we live in.
We made the ordinance and the town code read the same.
I understand. There may be time to change that in this world that we live in.
the charter needs a referendum vote change if they
Understood.
decide to that.
Understood. I'm just bringing it up that we live in a different world today. And you're looking backward.
Charter change would take a
Referendum.
petition, wouldn't it?
No,
No.
you can generate that, but it would have to be by referendum on
Okay. All right.
the ballot.
Okay, well, we're going to have plenty more discussions about it in the next couple of weeks. Yes, ma'am.
I just dropped in from nowhere.
Where do we stand as far as being able to have candidate signs on our lawn? I'm a part-time employee of the town of Bucksport, and I was approached last week, and it wasn't a very pleasant conversation, saying that I really shouldn't have signs
I
for
don't,
one of the people running for town council on my lawn.
I don't believe there's any regulations against that. That you can have any
Because you're a part-time employee or what?
Yeah. I'm an employee, I should not have signs on my lawn.
Are you a citizen? of
I
Bucksport?
am a citizen of Bucksport. I'm an
Okay.
employee of Bucksport, and it was a fellow employee of Bucksport who approached me.
Isn't that a violation of the First Amendment?
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking.
I don't see where you're in any violation.
Just asking.
I don't think any of us see it as a violation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Put as many signs on your lawn as you want.
Kind of what I thought.
Okay.
Anybody who wants to put a sign on my lawn is more than welcome to.
Okay, we're going to item C, the first reading of 2018-2019 General Assistance Ordinance. Repeal and replace Appendix A, B, C, and D, and Appendix M. Susan?
Annually, we're provided with the updated general assistance maximums in a number of areas that govern our local general assistance program, the state guidelines that we have to follow, and as these are changed on an annual basis, they have to be adopted locally after a public hearing, and so this would be it would be on the 27th, because we're a week between, in the same way that it requires 2 weeks between the first and the second reading. The item we just talked about is going to have to be on the 27th, as well as the general assistance. They require that amount of time between, and since we're on an off week, that's what's thrown that out. But these are, you review these annually, but they're state guidelines administered locally.
Can we have a public hearing the same night as the second reading?
Yes.
You certainly can.
Yeah.
That's what you typically do. You hold your second reading, and then you hold a public hearing, and then you act on it.
Okay.
While I'm up here, I just want to make a minor correction on that. That should read repeal and replace appendices A, B, C, and D, not Appendix M. Appendix M is the entire ordinance.
In
Okay.
Appendix M.
Or in, yeah. Okay.
Okay, then we need to go back to the council rules. And on the 27th, we'll have the second reading. Does the council want to have a public hearing on that issue?
Motion to have a public hearing.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, motion passes. Okay, on the second one, the second reading of general assistance ordinance, to have a public hearing also on that.
So I got a question. Now, this is guidelines that is set by the state, so we can't change them anyway.
So-
Never mind.
So probably don't need a
Probably don't need
Okay.
one. Right, that's what I was thinking.
You have to have one, though.
We have to have a public hearing on it?
Okay.
Motion to have a public hearing.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to have a public hearing to discuss general assistance ordinance, repeal and replace. All those in favor? Opposed, motion passes. Okay, for the public, on the 27th, there'll be a second reading for the council rules, political activity section, and public hearing at the same time. There'll be a second reading of the general assistance ordinance and public hearing also on the 27th, and there'll be an enactment on both those after that public hearing. Any questions? If not, we're going to go on to item 7, discussion items for manager's clarification or direction or council discussion. First one being councilor resignation of Paul Rabb. Susan, have any comments?
Yes, Councilor Rabb submitted his resignation on August 10th, and the council should vote to accept that resignation. And although my recommendation has been that you can continue with just 6 until the election, it's my understanding historically that you have occasionally appointed someone as a temporary counselor until the next election. which is in November. Not obviously any of the candidates who are running for office, but that's a decision, but that you should accept the resignation, number one, and then
Okay.
actively decide whether or not you wish to have an interim or not.
What if we don't want to accept it?
I'm
Do we
afraid
have to?
that
Just saying. That was just a question.
I don't think we can drag him back in here.
Right, I mean, personally, I'm not going to vote to accept it. That's my opinion.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept the resignation of Paul Rabs?
So moved. So moved.
I'll second it.
I mean, it was his, I mean, I'm reluctant to see Paul go, and I think that, matter of fact, I think I spoke on that at the time, but, you know, he has a right to choose what he wants to do, and I have to respect that also.
Again, I feel the same way. I hate to see him leave the council, serve the community very well, but it's his wishes, and I got to support his wishes also. So,
I'll respect him, but I still can't vote.
okay. All those in favor? Opposed? We didn't have we only had 3 votes. We need 4. How would the council like to proceed?
We send the police out to lasso him and drag him back in. Well, it's kind of a moot point anyway, I guess, you know.
Well, if we don't get a resignation, we probably can't even discuss an appointment then, right?
Right.
Even with my opinion, we don't fill that seat. It gets voted in November. But that would be my opinion. That's his seat. Until someone else is voted into it.
Well, we don't have to pay any attention to it, but we always have Frank Dunbar sitting at his barber shop hoping that he'll fill in it if necessary.
And we also have another counselor, too, that was recently on the council, Joe York, that could be considered. Which kind of had, I don't think Paul's coming back, and we haven't accepted his resignation, so. Any suggestions there?
Table until Peter gets here?
we can table it till we can try. I can try again next.
Okay,
Week.
next.
If anybody wants to drag Paul in, they can
Yeah, we'll-
take that route.
Peter will be back next week. And
I would think that it's possible that the person who gets elected in November could be appointed to start earlier.
Yeah, but then which one of the 3?
Well, there's a question now, isn't it? Yeah.
The one with the most votes? I don't know. Oh, well. We're going to bring this up at the next meeting
I'll
then.
put it back on the next
Okay.
agenda.
Sorry.
All right. We're going to go on to item B, Regulatory Review Committee update. Who's the chairman of that?
I chaired that.
All right.
On behalf of Mr. Rath. So, we talked about Chapter 2 Council Rules. We already talked about that tonight. We had a lengthy discussion on the Alpha 1 recommendations. The CEO is going to come back with us, to us next council meeting, next week, right? Or we haven't set a date yet, have we? Can that be done in a week, or do you need the 3? Is that fine? Reorganizing some of the stuff that they think should have a permit process, you know, because it is permitted in other areas. Then we discussed the plastic bag ordinance. The part of the group came to us. They asked us, in essence, to table it. They formed a committee that's going to discuss, or a development, committee, action group. They're going to canvass local businesses about the issue, community. They're going to educate the community, middle school, high school, Reach School, University of Maine. They're going to create a citizens board, connect to other towns about plastic bag use ordinances. They're gonna study successful ordinances, and then they're gonna report back to the town with their findings to see what action the town would like to take. I
Okay,
guess.
all right.
Okay.
Okay. Items,
Use the sheet.
okay, item C, Infrastructure Committee update for 9/6/18.
We discussed a number of items on the agenda. The first one was the camera project discussion, and the request is to spend $22,604.80 to upgrade the current waterfront camera system that is an analog system, doesn't produce clear images. Certainly, the incidents on the waterfront warrant, an up-to-date camera system that also has the storage capacity needed and more reliable and more functional cameras that are available. So it includes the back end, the servers, and we're recommending the full council that the town purchase and upgrade the system. Second item was purchase map 33, lot 66 and 67. We've been offered $750,000 from David Carlo.
No.
Whoa,
I'm sorry.
$750.
What did I say?
$750,000.
Oh,
Take
Excuse me,
I
I'm
deal in
sorry.
large numbers
I
at
think
work
probably
every
Mr.
day.
Carlo just had a heart attack if he's watching us.
$750 from David Carlo to take care of the properties, combine those properties, and then we'll write off the income tax left there. So recommendation to the council to accept that bid of $750. Recommend the council also include in a study of in the planning process for the dock and marina project, a study to make those handicap ADA accessible, where there are some issues right now with accessibility for those with mobility issues in particular. So recommending that be added to that project planning process. And the last one is proposed changes to town sign allowing banners, and Jeff's going to take that back and look at options that might include more permanent posts, I think permanent posts or different posts, and also make the two signs that we have identical on both ends of the town. So that's going back to further study.
Thank you. Any questions on any of those? If not, we'll go on to item D, Bucksport Middle School floor replacement. Mr. Boothby.
Good evening. You should have in your reports a report from me on an update of the floor replacement project. A couple of reasons to come forward to the council. First of all, it was at one point in time the building built by the town of Bucksport, and you have a vested interest, obviously, in this project. As I told you in my report, this has been a challenge since the day that this building was built, 16 years ago. The original floor was replaced within the first year. It was replaced because it was a defect in the floor. The floor we currently have went in, and we've had issues with that since it went in. And in particular, we've been getting moisture penetration through the slab. That's caused through different times of the year, especially when we get runoff, and if you're familiar with the area, we get runoff from the athletic fields down the hill. Gets underneath the slab, and we've been told by the engineers, we've done studies with Sewell Engineering, that water builds up subsurface and creates a pressure which pushes moisture up in through the vapor barrier and into the slab, and removes the ability of the adhesive to hold the floor to the concrete. We've searched, we've been doing this for over 2 years now. We've been doing studies on this, and we've basically reached a point going through the facility committee and the school board is the recommendation is to replace the floor. We're going to be moving forward with a referendum on November 6th. Our next school board meeting on the 18th, the board will be calling a warrant article for that. The total project right now is we're working on engineers' estimates, and we're working right around the number of $300,000, about $306,000. That project's going to be inclusive of tearing up the existing floor and also taking up the slab that's down there within the gymnasium space. The reason for that is we need to put in a mechanical moisture evacuation system, and they have to get the piping underneath that. And it's it'll be very technically difficult with the horizontal boring and get everything in the right place, because it has to be cross pieces as well. So the remedy was to dig the slab up, go down, build back up again. In our studies, we did find the original building was built to specs. Concrete was poured properly, the moisture barrier was installed properly, it was the right material, the substrate material was exactly as spec. So it has nothing to do with the original construction, except for the fact the original construction didn't account for the amount of water that goes underneath that building and builds up. Okay. We have had issues maintaining that floor and keeping it as safe as possible for use, which is a concern. And the floor, as we've done the research on the floor, that was only supposed to be spec'd a 10-year to 15-year floor life. We've reached the end of the life of that floor. So it's a significant undertaking. The plan is to bring that back. The construction company, whoever's hired, we've already gone out to, we did an invitation to bid for that. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'll add that silence. The engineer's calling for coming in and 1 foot from the interior walls to cut the slab and to remove that interior piece of the slab inside. The reason why they want to maintain that 1 foot barrier is there are a number of doors and door frames and sills that we don't want to mess with, because all those door frames are built into the cinder block. That would make it an amazing project there. So we don't want to do that. And then build the slab up to grade. The floor that's recommended to go in is a hardwood floor, which would be a definite improvement over what we currently have. And that'll be a raised hardwood floor, so there'll be some air that can get underneath there to help. So the plan is built with some redundancy in mind. There is going to be the mechanical moisture system. There's also going to be 2 inches of closed cell foam, which is not typically done for an interior slab, but for the price it's extra insurance, and then a moisture barrier with that before the slab goes down. So,
Are they gonna, have you thought about putting drainage on the outside too?
yeah, absolutely. That's part of the project, and that's going to be a second phase to this.
Is it okay?
Yeah, we're doing it outside of this project proposal because we'll build that into our regular budget that we use, our general educational budget. There's some technical challenges to that because of the side of the building that faces to the uphill is where all our entrances are for electrical, natural gas. So you can still put it in there, but it's going to take some digging, a lot of hand digging and such. So, plus we're talking about also going out to the next layer where you come down off the hill. There's a drainage ditch. Put some additional drainage there. Run that to the water holes that we have there right now. So.
Yeah, the drainage when that was built to begin with was never thought of. I mean,
There's no drainage in the field above.
yeah,
It's all natural flow.
Yeah, it really doesn't.
And there's not much flow. It's a lot of natural holes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we do have a rule to play around the ducks in left field. So
Right.
there's ground root double if you get it in the pond, but that's all right. So part of the reason for coming here is we've had many discussions at our facilities committee, and part of this is we are going to have to go out for financing, and we do have $75,000 in the capital reserve account that the facilities committee has recommended to the school board that they would expend that on this project, which would leave in rough numbers about $225,000 remaining over that. I've researched going out to bond. I've researched a direct loan with the bank, all of which we can do. We are going to have to get voter approval to do this project. We'll have to do voter approval to expend the capital reserve money, and we will need voter approval in order to finance this. In our
It
conversations...
should be on the ballot this November?
Yes, it will be. Yeah. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, we do it separate, but piggyback on the process.
Yeah.
Back to where I was going. The money to look at financing this. There are opportunities, and we've talked in our facilities committee, the potential of a creative solution to financing. And that would be working with the town to see if the town would be willing to use some of the reserves monies that they would have to work with the school department with a promissory note. And negotiate terms that would be favorable, and I suspect could be favorable to both sides.
The initial discussions that we've had is that for this relatively small amount of money, and I say relatively small, $281,000 is not tiny, but it's when you start borrowing for town purposes and school purposes, it is that the cost of legal opinions related to borrowing for these are close to $3,000 for the legal fees to accommodate the ability to borrow $200,000, and then you've got your interest rate on top of that. And if the school were to borrow that from the town and pay us 3%, that's 1% more than I can, or more than 1% more than I can currently earn for investments, and would save the district several $1,000s in legal fees that wouldn't be necessary in a promissory note borrowing. It's a relationship building tool between the town and the school, only because we've at least since I've been here, and it appears to me it's been going on longer than that, that when opportunities present themselves where the town and the school district can work together cooperatively for the benefit of both, that we should talk about those things as part of that. And that's what this discussion is that this $225,000 would in no way impact the town's fiscal situation in any respect, and it would not be a gift, thank you, it would be a loan that was repaid.
Where would we take that money from?
If you take it from fund balance is where you would take it from.
So non-tax, not tax revenue or present tax revenue, that would come from quote-unquote the rainy day?
Your unappropriated fund balance.
Appropriate fund.
That's something we've talked about, using that money, and that would be for a good purpose.
I'd like to make a motion, if I can.
Well, there's more terms. This initial discussion, the sort of terms on I'm sure you'd like to see a proposal that includes an interest rate and all those kind of things, so that you can make an actual decision. But if the purpose of bringing it up now is, if you're willing to consider those things, we'll go through the process of preparing that information for you.
I guess that was what my motion was going to be,
Oh,
to
okay. I'm sorry.
give you that authority to work with the school district to come up with what works for you both and what works for the kids. It's all about the kids. I'm sorry, but that money's just sitting there, and the kids need this, and that's my opinion.
Well, selfishly, it
safe.
earns the town a little more interest, and it also saves the district.
Which
As
saves
I
the
said,
town.
Which saves the town.
it's expensive.
It's
We pay 60% of the cost of that
Right. I mean,
piece.
to me, that's a no-brainer, and it's needed, and it's been needed for years, and it was needed 16 years ago. So
We will have a bid opening on the 17th at 2 o'clock. We have 3 contractors that have expressed interest in the job and have been on site and went through a pre-bid meeting. So we will see where that comes up. One of the parts of the project is that there's really 3 separate phases to this. The first phase is we have to remove the existing bleachers, and we're going to contract directly with Hussey Bleachers. It makes sense to go to the manufacturer, have them move it, so if they mess it up, they can fix it, because we'd have to call them back to fix it anyways. So we're going to get those out of the way. So that's a portion of the job that's gone out of the way. Again, the demolition and the rehab work, that's the big chunk. And then the third phase is the actual court itself. And there aren't a lot of hardwood basketball court vendors around, and we've sought those out, and we have
You have gardens, that looks pretty good.
the gardens floor,
Yeah.
yeah. And so that is the third phase, so that's a separate phase. Okay, but the whole project is what that number, that $300,000 number is what our working estimate we've used.
Has anyone given you a time frame?
The
What
time,
start to finish, once
Yeah.
they start, I know you still got a lot to do, but
well, we've told the contractors what our expectations are. Okay, that's the time frame we're using. The plan is to begin to start working approximately June 10th and have the bleachers removed. That they're telling us that's a day for them to get in and move those. They're going to move those into the cafeteria, and then we'll adapt to how we're going to feed the kiddos for the last week and a half of school. And then as far as the actual demolition goes and everything, we'll seal off that whole area, and they will have until August 1st to get that ready to go
start the school year.
to start the floor. So our goal is to have that ready for the school year. That's a great goal. If that comes to fruition, then we'll be very excited. If not, we'll adapt. But we expect it can be. The demolition, and the big part is making sure the concrete is cured, because the wood floor cannot go onto a floor that has a moisture level below a certain point.
Do you, on your referendum, you have to specifically say how you're going to do the financing, or you just say that the district is going to do the floor and get permission?
I suspect that we'll probably, and I'll have to get my lawyer's opinion on this. They've already said it's not a problem, that a promissory note could be arranged with the town, but the actual referendum language will probably, it's going to have to definitely ask that we're approved and authorized to enter into a loan or a promissory note arrangement in this amount. I can tell you that has to be specifically asked. We should know on the 17th if our estimates, how close they are. Knock on wood, they'll be within line. We've gone out this early for a number of reasons, because we want time to plan. Also with construction, we want to make sure we have people ready to go and we're in the hopper for next year. If we waited, we'd be behind the 8 ball.
And you're going to come back to us with a presentation on, what rate that the town would be
Rate,
willing to
amount,
accept, and
etc.
comparison to what it would cost if you went to a bank or something like that.
Yeah, I'm prepared to do that, but we just needed to get this initial conversation to go, because the ball's going to start rolling fairly quickly now over the next couple of months.
Okay.
And we'll have to hold a public hearing in October,
Okay.
and I'd like to have this in place so we can explain the whole process.
Okay. I think you wanted to make a motion to,
Make a motion to allow the town manager to work with the school department to come up with an agreement, promissory note for the new floor for the middle school.
okay, we have a motion and seconded to approve a motion to authorize the town manager to work with the superintendent of schools to come up with some creative financing for the gym floor. Okay?
Isn't that subject to the vote on November 6th?
Yes.
And it also, that the council's authority to do this without referendum is less than $250,000.
Yes.
That is your authority to,
Yeah.
So we're under our threshold.
Okay,
We'll keep it there.
you have any,
We'll do our best, sir.
you have any other comments before I open it up to the public?
No, just my
Okay.
anticipation was that once we had a chance to have the conversation and sit down, do a comparison, we'd be back here before the council for
Okay.
final approval.
Any comments from the public on this? It's basically, we're just getting the information to make a decision down the road. Yes, sir.
So the plan is to loan $225,000, was that the number that we were talking about?
It's an estimated number, right? A working estimate on it.
Yeah, it's still less than the $250,000 you're authorized to.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned that, where would this money be coming from that would be paying it back?
That would be part of the school budget. So anytime that we have, and we have a section in there of what we have to pay back for different loans and everything, that's built right into that.
essentially the citizens will be paying us back.
Yes, sir.
So we're gonna take this amount of money out of our monies that we have already, and then we're gonna pay it back through the school system with interest, paying interest on money that we already have. Is what it sounds like to me. I mean, you know,
And we'll pay more interest than we're getting from the investment, is the point.
And al-
Less than they would
and
pay
also-
to go
Less
get a
than they
loan.
would pay, so it's a win-win for
somebody
both.
else pays that interest that we get from our investment, not us. We don't pay it.
But the
We
point
pay
is-
interest on our own money.
But the point is, if we can make 3% instead of 2% on $220,000, that's a win for us.
Yeah, just to clarify, I think that we should take the money out of that account.
I guess I don't understand your question.
I just think that if we're gonna pay it back, I don't think we should be paying interest to pay it back. I think we just-
So we should lose, you're saying we should lose the interest that we're getting?
Well, let's lose it twice then. We'll lose it from the.
How are we losing
Out
it?
of our pockets.
How are we losing it if we're getting a 3% versus a 2%
Because
return?
we're paying it back.
Yeah, but that's split between multiple communities, Jim, not just Bucksport.
My question, given the RSU, Orland, Prospect is alone.
Right, it's all part. And if we didn't have this type of conversation, and I went to the bank that we use, we would have an established interest rate on our loan, and we'd have to pay that back. And that would be built into the budget as well. My working estimates from my conversations with the bank indicate that that interest rate would be higher than what would probably be here. So,
Understood. We should loan the money. We should
Yeah.
loan the money.
yeah, and so Bucksport is, rough figures, about 60% of the total budget on the funding formula. And so 40% of that would also be coming from the other three communities.
Understood.
What did you, when you went out to possible banks, were they talking like 4 or 5%?
3 3/4 to 4 1/4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus closing costs and
Well,
legal opinions.
I was going to say the legal opinion, it's, when the town goes out to do borrowing for the multiple year purchases we have, we don't go do it the legal, we take a higher interest rate rather than do the legal opinion, because the difference in interest rate is always less than the cost of the legal opinion until you get up to a certain level of borrowing where that's not the case. But a couple $100,000 is, and I'm not making light of that. It's not that that's pocket change, but in terms of what you're going to pay for a legal opinion for, it becomes just it adds percentage points of interest
To the
in
overall
essence
cost.
to your borrowing. So.
Okay, any other comments from the public? If not, we're going to take a vote on it. Okay, all those are in favor of authorizing the town manager to work with the superintendent of schools? Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Next thing on the agenda is the camera replacement project that was discussed by Mr. Carmichael a little earlier. I believe that's going to be on the next agenda.
Has that gone out for bid yet?
The man of the answers is on his way into the room at the present time.
Have you put that out for bid yet?
For the camera project?
Yeah.
One of the good things about the camera project is most of the labor is in-house for us.
Because you're gonna do it?
Right. So that's the benefit to the contract between the town and the RSU is I have one, if not two other sets of hands that can help me do that. So we limit the cost to the town.
So you're just buying the product?
Yeah, the one exception is the recording device will be purchased through our phone consultant, Main Communications Consulting, because they've set them up. Actually, Chief Gagin and I traveled down to Waterville Junior High, and they have a very similar system inside and outside their school that they're going to do. So we pointed out what they would enhance and what they wouldn't enhance, and it's all enrolled into here. So part of it's in the purchase of it, because obviously he's a vendor, that's how it works. But there is a 10-hour cost to him doing the initial setup. But all the mounting on buildings and stuff will be done in-house for your contract with us.
That's not until the 13th.
So the existing camera system does cover a majority of the waterfront, focused around the town dock, part in front of the marina, and then here in the building, both exterior and interior. Some of our issues that we've had, actually it's down to the monument as well. There's 3 cameras down there. One of the problems we're having is that the existing network is a wireless network system. It works very well. I've been monitoring it, and it's on all the time. It's very reliable. But basically, we're trying to shove a pumpkin down a half-inch pipe, and it's failing. So it intermittently fails. So we might get 30 seconds of video on one camera, and then a minute of video on the other. And the difference you can see is if you take the cameras here that are attached to the building, both interior and exterior, when that pipes back to the police department, the existing system, it's on our fiber network. That works all the time. And it comes down to the network issue. So a couple of things we'll do with the new camera system is we put in a robust network. So basically we'll fill about 1/3 of its capabilities now with the ability to overuse that air or that wireless system between here and the marina, here in the utility building where the bathrooms are. And we'll light up the waterfront for our purpose. So in the future we'll be able to expand those other options there on the network side. And the biggest feature of it is I've reviewed video with Chief Gagan and Sergeant Winchester, having people walk across the waterfront 1, 2 in the morning, and you get a gray blur. You've seen this 100 times, Paul. You get a gray blur. You put up the APB, and everyone has gray blurs that they can give us. And it is better than nothing because you get a time frame on it. But the camera system we've picked up, if you look at the rundown of the cameras, you'll see what is megapixels. A megapixels basically means the quality of the image it's taking. And we range everywhere from 4 to 12 in our proposal. And a big part of that is what's the distance we're covering and what's the nighttime effectiveness. In some cases, in order to get 200 feet of night vision, we bumped up to the next camera class. We also take advantage of what's called a fisheye camera. We talked about that at the infrastructure meeting. And basically, it's one point in the ceiling, much like you have on these detectors, but there's 8 cameras on the inside that's recording. So it costs about 3 times as much as a single camera, but you get 4, 5, 6 times the use out of it, and you can cover different space. So part of the proposal is put one of those fisheye cameras up in the main lobby, so we can cover the counter, the doors, and anywhere we may have a conflict, and we can do almost the entire upstairs with one camera. So that's the biggest part of it. Is it's not just replacing the existing camera system, because I'll be point blank with you, we could exist and duct tape that back together and limp it along for much less cost, but we're going to keep going through it again and again and again. And once we have the wireless network up and running, which is technology we've actually been using in the marina all summer, we've been wirelessly sending data between the bathrooms and the marina, and it's been absolutely perfect for us. And it's in behind a wall. You can't even see the attachment on the marina, and we're still pulling the full pipe of data that we can pull through there. So that's reliable technology. We've had a chance to go hands-on and actually experiment with it, so that's nice to have as well. And we do have another vendor that can sell me that equipment, who they have a specialist who's viewing my diagram now to confirm what I have, to make sure I have bought what we need to, or I've lined up what we need to, or I haven't overbought. So there are some areas here we might be able to trim some monies down as well. So the proposal that I give to you is what I expect the cap to be. I don't see myself coming back. The only thing that's not included is the knock-in is a big part of this, is that we need to make sure we monitor the back side of the building. So that's proposed to be covered by 2 cameras. But in addition, that also gives us a big blockage in our way from here to the marina that we can now hardwire the network through. So basically what happens is the marina sends it to the side of the knock-in wirelessly, and then we actually have our own little mini network running through conduit that pipes it up the back side of this building, so we get a much clearer and robust system. And
Have we talked to the Knox-In to make sure we do
well,
that?
we've talked.
It's part of our agreement.
Okay.
with the
Yeah,
settlement.
yeah, yeah. So last time,
Sure. Sorry.
I talked to Mr. Green, so now I'm trying to connect Mr. Green and our contract electrician, Mr. Allard, together to make a plan. So right now, Mr. Allard found a post that's metered outside their building that belongs to us. So there's already power that's not taken from him that belongs to us. So that's a huge installation that we might have had to look at for this project that's already in place. So now we have to pipe it into the building and out to the back. And Mr. Green has agreed to meet with Mr. Allard and see where that's going to travel and what it's going to take. So that cost is not in here. Whatever it costs for the electrician to pipe the electricity into the building, conduit, wiring, and punch it on the back side is not included. But other than that, the rest of it's there.
What are we talking?
22,604.80.
22,604.80.
I mean, that's
Okay.
that's a part of the project that needs to be there, and I'm guessing that it's not going to be free.
No,
No.
no.
And we gotta.
And I should have those numbers the first part of next week, I would
We
guess.
shouldn't have you have to come back. It's, I guess my.
Well,
Well,
it needs to be on a resolve for the next Thursday anyway, and he
Right.
should have by that time
Yeah, I
the
should have it
final.
next week.
So you could have that
The whole
part of the
amount.
project, the whole
Right.
thing. Great. Perfect.
And we'll put it on a resolve
Okay.
at the next meeting.
I thought we were voting on this now, I'm sorry.
Now, that's the one piece of the puzzle that's still a question mark. I spoke to Mr. Allard today. He's been out of town for a week, and he said he'll be in town tomorrow. Can we set it up with the first part of the week?
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, go ahead.
if we can have this all so you can actually see.
And that's the big
That's
thing
the
is,
key.
I mean, when we place the cameras outside here, when someone drives down, say they drive onto the walkway, if their license plate is exposed to us, it's an 8 megapixel camera. It'll close 200 feet and give us a license plate. And it'll all be able to be done from the police department. And as we expand other places, if we bring on wastewater treatment and we put a small box there in the town garage, it all feeds back to the police department where it can be monitored.
We're starting to do that on our side of the river.
Oh yes, I bet you are.
And it's costing a lot more now. I can tell you for sure because we're not doing it.
Right.
So
I have no
that
problem
is
climbing a
great
ladder,
price
and running wire. So
compared to, and we're doing the same thing. I mean, we got a mile and a half. We will October 1st up there.
right, yeah, you do.
And that is a great price and great stuff to have on the waterfront. We have a portion of it now that we can see actually. I can pull it up on my computer at the PD.
Yeah.
So.
What I will point out on this is there's a couple recommended. So it does add 3 cameras, adds 2 to the back of the waterfront, and adds 1 looking at the marina docks, so that we do have recording there if anything of illegal stature came across. Because obviously, if someone gets injured there, or if there's crime that occurs, we'd like to have something to work in our benefit, or at least investigatory tool. 2 other things I proposed that are not included in the price would be optional if you folks want to look at them. I do have pricing in there. One is a fisheye camera, again, sitting in the main room of the marina. And one of the aspects there is the employees are in and out. If someone's going in and take material, which I don't think we've had that, but it's an opportunity to have that in there. And that would increase about $600 for the camera, maybe a little bit less. Since there's already a network node there, we'll be able to plug it in without having to run any extra pieces. And the other 2 that were proposed, I spoke to, actually Sergeant Winchester spoke to me about it when he was talking about the project, and I spoke to Chief Gagan about it, was 2 positions on Main Street to be identified where we could put just stationary cameras. So if we were following up on an incident, the example Sergeant Winchester used was the injury crash that we had after the fireworks after the Bay Festival. Now, depending on what the cameras are, we maybe well had video of that and be able to adjudicate better what happened there, even in the chaos. Because we have 10 witnesses that have 10 views, as we know. So, but those are options on there. The pricing is on there if you folks want to look at that. The only proposed position I could think of that would be useful on Main Street would be the CSO building, which we're already wired into. So other than running another length of wire, it wouldn't be another spot. To find a second point, I'm kind of at a blank. But
Okay. Any comments from the public on this? Yes, sir.
I can presently go online and see what the camera on the marina's doing. Am I going to be allowed to go on and see what these cameras are seeing?
the scope of the project I have is not for public view. A lot of that's because the interior of the buildings, and some of it will be audio recorded as well. I don't know what the council feels there, but that was not part of the scope of my project. But
You'll still
there
be
may
able to
be
see
another
the
one.
outside stuff, though. I think
What's that?
that's his question. He'll
You
still,
can still see the marina.
So that one will stay there. My understanding is that once upon a time there was a static camera where you could see the town dock as well, where the cruise ships come in. So we'll work to put that one back online as well.
But the rest of them along the thing.
Right, those ones will be private, in-house, to the police department. And if you had a complaint or had an issue, you could speak to the police chief or the officer, and they would give you another tool.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I'm just curious, will that go beyond the gazebo?
They will be at the gazebo. So,
At the gazebo.
yeah, the extent of the camera system would be to view the gazebo, and it would get the immediate adjacent area. In order to take another step down to get that next section, we'd have to run another power source. So it's something we could expand in the future, but it's not in the scope.
Anything else? If not, we'll go on to the next item. Okay, next item is former fitness center, the ADAPT plan recommendations. Susan.
This item was added, okay, let me back up. At the last council meeting, Councilor Eastman, at the end of the meeting, asked that this be on the next agenda. We didn't have the meeting, thank you, because of my vacation, and we had it, this one, following a holiday, and the item was not added to the agenda until later, and after the original one went out. And part of the of the discussion was to afford all parties interested in that, the development of that fitness center, the opportunity to be here and participate in the discussion. A major one of those is Pastor Remick and the committee from the Methodist Church, who has been working on a proposal to locate or relocate the church there. There's also a contingent of people in the community who have been looking or proposing the idea that an eventual Y or fitness center associated with long-term planning for the town would go there. And so the purpose is to have that on the agenda and the meeting of the 13th, where all parties could be present to discuss their views on this and what, if anything, the town does or doesn't do in regard to the portion of the ADAPT plan that identifies this for other uses. But it's really an attempt to get everyone in the same room to talk about things at the same time, instead of, we've got a group over here that's doing something and another group over here that is talking about doing something else, and the town is somewhat in the middle because it's in the middle of a planning process. And so since appropriate opportunity and notice for everyone to be here wasn't made for this, I asked that we put this on the 13th and have made sure that others have been notified of that, and we'll do more outreach to others so that we make sure that everyone who has an interest in this topic can be here in order to discuss it. That's why it's not going to be talked about tonight.
All right. You got a question?
I do have a question. Correct me if I'm wrong, we don't own that property. Okay. So we can't really decide what's going to happen to that property unless we were to buy it.
Well,
She wants another week.
I mean, I'm at odds with, well, we're deciding what to do with Wilson Hall. I mean, at least Wilson Hall we own. But the other one, I don't know. Okay.
And I'm not sure that we're going to be deciding anything. That property is identified, has been identified through the planning process that's been ongoing.
But a nice price, yeah.
Well, for accessory uses to the development that's going there, and if that's not going to happen, other things, it needs to happen somewhere else.
Okay.
It's a discussion.
All right.
It's not a
We're
bad
going
thing.
to move on to the agenda items. First item on the agenda is to approve Resolved 2019-12 to approve the final sale terms for 15 Central Street.
Most approved.
We have motion and second to approve the final sale of 15 Central Street. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Next one being to approve Resolve R 2019-13 to approve the sale of lots M3, L66, M33, Lot 67. How would the council like to proceed?
Second.
We have motion and second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, item 9, resignations, appointments, or assignments, or elections. We have an item, appointment of an alternate plumbing inspector. Susan.
Yes, several meetings ago, our CEO discussed with the council the idea that there's no, when he's on vacation or unavailable, there's no second option for people who need plumbing inspections or in terms of their building projects, and that he recommended that he reached out to a neighboring CEO who indicated that for $40 in an inspection, he would be willing to cover Bucksport when Jeff was on vacation, etc. And so I followed up with him, and he is, Kathy has a swearing. I can't pronounce his last name.
Chiavelli.
Okay.
Chiavelli.
Chiavelli. I would mess it up. But anyway, that so the request is to appoint Mr. Chiavelli as an alternate plumbing inspector through March of this coming year, to make the appointment consistent with all of our other appointments, and then move it forward on an annual basis.
Motion approved?
Second.
We have motion and a second to approve the appointment of Mr. Luke Chiavelli to alternate plumbing inspector until March 2019.
He does Verona and Norwood.
He does, yeah. Okay. Anything further from the public on this? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we have no quitclaim deeds tonight. We'll have some on these properties at the next meeting.
You will at the next.
Okay.
Either the next one or the one
Okay.
after that.
Item 11 is town manager's report.
I'm happy to report that Bucksport continues to get great positive coverage from our local enterprise and our neighboring Ellsworth American, and that we've also continue on a weekly basis to be featured in other media, the Bangor Daily News, This Week Maine Biz, television stations, the Wall Street Journal, Yankee Magazine, the Island Journal, the Republican Journal, and more. There's rarely been a week in the 3 years that I have been here that something positive has not been featured about Bucksport in some media format. The people of this community are to be credited for their resilient spirit, their belief in the future of their community, and their willingness to work for that future, because truly that is the key to what keeps bringing these media folks back here, is the work of the people of the community to move it forward. So thank you all. I took last week as vacation, and unfortunately on our second day my husband injured his knee. He's now on crutches, and it appears that the next several months will include surgery and recovery. And as a result, I will not be attending the meetings in Washington, D.C. or Pennsylvania that I was scheduled to attend next week for the Local Government Advisory Committee for the EPA or the Champions Gathering for Heart and Soul. I will be in the office all week next week, but I want to thank everyone for their good wishes on his recovery. Tax collection, and this is exciting for me, and I'm happy to report that I want to first thank the front office staff for another yeoman's effort in the tax duty portion of the year. There are two of them, and they run off their feet. But in analyzing how we're doing for tax collection, that through September 5th, 50% of taxes are due, and we've collected 47.59%. That is an excellent collection percentage for a first half, just a few days after that. Many people, now it's skewed somewhat by the fact that many people have paid the full year at once, but still in all, being that close to 50% when 50% is due is a testament to how well and how responsibly the people of this community take their obligation. So it's a good indicator of community fiscal health as well. And difficult foreclosed properties, in addition to selling the two small lots on tonight's agenda that have been in foreclosure for many, many, many years, I'm pleased to let the council know that I will be bringing forward in the next month offers on 3 other parcels that have access and legal issues for sale to abutters as well. And these also have been many, many years of foreclosure, to the point where ownership can't be traced any longer. You can't make contact. The owners aren't around. So that will tidy up several other of these small problem lots and reduce our foreclosed list dramatically. The town dock project, repair project approved by the council, has received its permits and is ready to begin at the end of September and is estimated to take 2 to 3 weeks. The addition of diesel to the marina fuel selection along with new pumps has been submitted to the Maine DOT SHIP grant program, and at this time they plan to include it in their 2019 work plan, which means it will be installed in the spring. And finally, Wednesdays on Main is going with 3 excellent documentaries at the Alamo, scheduled over the next 3 Wednesdays. And it's morphed from Wednesday on Main to Wednesday at the Alamo, and I encourage everyone to attend.
Thank you. Any questions on any of those items? If not, we're going to go on to item 12. Set public hearings or hold public hearings for approval of any licenses or permits. We need to set a public hearing for general assistance, and I believe we set that earlier in the meeting on the 27th. We held a meeting on Chapter 12, Traffic and Safety, public hearing tonight. So that pretty well takes care of that section. We'll go on to item 13, discussion items not on the agenda for the council or the public. I'll open it up to the public first. Any discussion items from the public? If not, any discussion items from the council?
I actually had one, and it made me think of it when I saw the signs. We were in the paper this week, Fish Capital, turning into Fish Capital, or whatever, and there was a picture of the sign in the industrial park. That needs to get fixed. No, we've talked about it since I've been on the council 4 years. It needs to. We need to pony up.
4 hours after the fact I showed up online, I got an email from the party to replace the sign, and Sue's gonna ask to have that added to the next meeting.
Awesome.
The next council agenda.
Perfect. Yeah.
Any other discussion items from the council? If not, we'll go on to upcoming public hearings, discussion topics for committee assignments. We have an infrastructure committee meeting we need to schedule. Who's the chairman of that, Robbie?
I am not going to be here the next 2 meetings, so we can hold it and make sure there's
I can hold off, can it?
Well, yeah, because we'll be down 2, you and, yeah.
Okay. And we'll put it back on the schedule for when you get back. Okay. That's the case. We'll go on to item 15.
Mr. Adjourned.
Second.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I was distracted. Did we set that up, finance committee meeting?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
It's a
okay.
finance committee meeting.
Isn't that infrastructure?
Finance.
Oh,
No,
that's separate?
finance is separate.
Am I on that
so
one?
Mr.
That's
Key,
Mr. Key.
Oh, yeah.
what do you want to
Whatever
have?
the next meeting's fine.
6:30
Yeah, that's that on the 13th? Is that
on the 13th?
Yeah.
Is that
6:30.
next Thursday at 6:30?
Yes.
It's the sign.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
the sign.
We meet.
You all set now?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for adjournment. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
Wait, I was gonna try to get that picture.